The point that we stopped last time was the end of Perek Lamed Chet, chapter 38 in Yechezkel, when we said that the Milchemet Gog Magog going to end up when Hashem going to interfere and destroy the attack on the Jewish people on the land of Israel. And the Navi explained or described 3 steps. The first one will be the strongest earthquake ever that will destroy everything, and the purpose of it to destroy the army of the international, all the nations in the world that will come to attack Israel. So that will be the first thing. Step number 2 will be a war, that because of the confusion from the earthquake, they will start to shoot each other, they will fight between each other, and another part of this big army will be destroyed. Those who will survive from those two, the earthquake and the war that will start in between them, they will get a geshem, a rain of stones with fire, and a dever. Dever is a plague that will kill all the rest, all of the rest of the soldiers. In this way, the army will be destroyed. So, the end of the war is with complete defeat of the attackers. And this, as we said, is a part of the revelation and revealing the truth at the end of days. Now, few questions were reminded. We have to relate to them. First one, I related it a little bit last time, why it should be done this way. So we quote the last pasuk in Yechezkel, this pasuk, והתגדלתי והתקדשתי ונודעתי לעיני גויים רבים וידעו כי אני השם. And as I mentioned, those are the 2 beginning words of the Kaddish, והתגדל והתקדש שמי רבה. And we explained this, that Gog took on himself to fight against Hashem, as we said in the Medrash. And Hashem said, you want to deny how you could fight against Hashem? Just deny his existence. So the war of Gog Magog will show that Hashem is running the show, Hashem is the master of the universe, and this is the Kiddush Hashem. This is the Yitgadal v'Yitkadash Shmei Rabbah. Another question that we didn't really address last time was, where is the safest place to be at the time, right? And here I want to just in brief go to the next chapter in Yechezkel. The following chapter, chapter Lamed Tet, 39. Basically, this chapter repeats the things that mentioned in the first chapter about the war, but there is an addition of few things. I will relate to those few things. Here's Perek Lamed Tet. I'll just read it, I will not explain everything, only the thing that I think is relevant to, or an addition. ואתה בן אדם ינבא על גוג ואמרת, כה אמר השם אלוקים, הנני אליך גוג נשיא ראש משך ותובל. This is the following chapter, chapter ל"ט. ושובבתיך ושישתיך ועלתיך מירכתי צפון. Again, he says, I will put this idea in your mind, and you will come from the end of the north. והביאותיך על הרי ישראל, or bring you to the mountains of Israel. והכיתי קשתך מיד שמאלך וחיציך מיד ימינך אפיל. על הרי ישראל תיפול. On the mountains of Israel, then you will be defeated or fall. You, אתה וכל אגפיך ועמים אשר איתך. לעת ציפור כל כנף החיית השדה נתתיך לאוכלה, על פני השדה תיפול, כי אני דיברתי נאום השם אלוקים. And here comes the pasuk that relate of what's going to happen in the entire world. So people will think maybe to stay far away from the events, far away until everything will calm down. So look what the pasuk says, the next pasuk. ושילחתי אש במגוג, וביושבי האיים לבטח, וידעו כי אני השם. ושילחתי אש במגוג, I'll send fire in Magog, meaning in the land of Magog, because we have to remember again that Magog is the name of a place, of a nation, of a country. They will send soldiers to fight, but the families of the soldiers will stay back home, right? So he said that there will be fire in their place, the Magog. So Magog, according to what we just try to, think what could be Magog, talking about Russia. So it's only in Russia, because Magog or Gog gathering together all the nations of the world. The next few words relate to ושילחתי אש במגוג, but not just in Magog, וביושבי האיים לבטח. What is the meaning of this? There are islands far away from the events in Israel. Could be small islands and also big islands. And people over there will feel safe. יושבי האיים לבטח, they're far away and they on islands far away. So it says over here that there will be fire in Magog and in יושבי האיים לבטח. וידעו כי אני השם. And again, it's repeat that the bottom line of all the thing is to know, not to believe, to know for sure that Hashem is the master of the universe. He created the world, He's running the world, and everything is by Hashgacha, especially when you have a prediction many years before the events, prior to the events, and when it will occur exactly according to what the Nevuah says, that will be the knowledge. ואת שם קודשי הודיע בתוך עמי ישראל. And here he relates to two things. The revelation, the knowledge, the absolute clear knowledge that Hashem is here and Hashem is running the show and there is Hashgacha, will be addressed to two targets, to the Goyim, to the nations, and it repeats itself again later, and among the Jewish people. ואת שם קודשי הודיע בתוך עמי ישראל, ולא אחל את שם קודשי עוד, וידעו הגויים, here repeated, כי אני השם קדוש בישראל. And here there's something that we should just mention. I mentioned it last week, that last year, that Christianity took their ideas about everything in Christianity from the Torah and from the Tanakh and from the Nevi'im. One of their claims was the Jews are the chosen people. Hashem chose them. And Hashem made a covenant with them. But because they were so stubborn, and they repeat again and again to run away from the covenants, then the philosophy of Christianity, Hashem just gave up on them and sent them away. And there is a new story now, a new covenant. This is the philosophy of Christianity with everyone in the world, not just the Jewish nation, everyone in the world who accept the ideas of Jesus, etc., the entire thing. So that was their philosophy. And they proved it during the history by the fact that Israel was destroyed, the land of Israel. The Jews are in exile for so many years. They are suffering. And actually, they contribute a lot to the suffering of the Jews, Christians. The religion of love, they loved everything but Jews. And they killed them, and they did, Inquisition, everything. One of their twisted, and obviously, there are verses clearly over here against their, whatever they're trying to say, are those psukim and the fact that there will be Milchemet Gog Magog. Because according to their philosophy, there is no more Israel. I mean, no more old Israel. No more Israel as a nation. Now Israel is, according to the Christianity, is every Gentile in the world that believe in Jesus. Now here, he's speaking clearly about the end of days. Even Christians agree that this prophecy is at the end of days. And look what he says over here. He says that וידעו הגויים כי אני השם קדוש בישראל. meaning I never left them. They are my nation, and it repeats itself again and again. You'll see, Kadosh B'Yisrael. So again, how are they going to twist it? They say B'Yisrael, meaning everyone that accepts Christianity called Israel, which is for sure not the simple understanding of it. But if you continue, he says, ונתתי את כבודי בגויים וראו כל הגויים את משפטי אשר עשיתי ואת ידי אשר שמתי בהם וידעו בית ישראל כי אני השם אלוהים מן היום ההוא והלאה. Bet Israel is the house of Israel. And this is for sure cannot relate to anyone but the descendants of Israel, Yaakov Avinu. וידעו הגויים כי בעוונם גלו בית ישראל, על אשר מעלו בי, ואסתר פניי מהם, ויתנם ביצריהם, ויפלו בחרב כולם, כתומתם וכפשעיהם עשיתי איתם, ואסתיר פניי מהם. So, now the goyim will know, not according to their philosophy, that because the Jews sinned, therefore I punish them, but I'm going to make them coming back. I never just, gave up of them. I'll make them come back. לכם, כה אמר השם, אתה אשיב את שבות יעקב, וריחמתי כל בית ישראל, וקינאתי לשם קודשי. So, clearly, he addressed this, that everyone will know that Hashem never gave up on Israel, on the nation of Israel, and they will come back to the land of Israel, and they will recognize that Hashem is the one. ונשאו את פלימתם ואת כל מעלם אשר מעלו בי בשבתם על אדמתם לבטח ואין מחריד. Now here he talked about קיבוץ גליוס. בשובבי אותם מן העמים וקיבצתי אותם מארצות אויביהם ונקדשתי בם לעיני הגויים רבים וידעו כי אני השם אלוהיהם בהגלותי אותם אל הגויים וכינסתים אל אדמתם. So he speaks about the one who went to exile, which, meaning the Jewish nation that went to exile. Hashem will bring them back to the land of Israel. So for sure, speaking about us, he never gave up of us, and that will be cleared at the end of days. By the way, through Milchemet Gog Magog, through this war. Okay? Now he says something very interesting. וידעו כי אני השם אלוהיהם בהגלותי אותם אל הגויים. They will know. I mean, they, the Jewish nation, and the rest of the world will know that I'm their God, because I made them go to exile, וכינסתים על אדמתם, and I will bring them back to their land, ולא אותיר עוד מהם שם, ולא אסתיר עוד פני מהם, אשר שפכתי את רוחי על בית ישראל, נאום השם אלוקים. What he's saying over here is something very interesting. That when we ask, when the war of Gog Magog going to happen, remember? So, in פרק ל"ח it says, באחרית השנים תבוא, אל ארץ משובבת מחרב מקובצת מעמים רבים. Meaning, the time that the war will happen will be when the land of Israel will be populated again from the people who came out from all over the world, right? So, this is the situation right now. There are people in Israel from all over the world, right? But here he promised, "Velo otir od mehem sham," meaning will be no one Jew left out of the land of Israel. But that's going to happen when? After the war. After the war. So the war will be in between the partial kibbutz galuyos to the complete kibbutz galuyos. And the complete kibbutz galuyos meaning velo otir od mehem sham. Will be no one Jew out of the land of Israel. Hashem promised this. Okay, so this is just the addition information in the following chapter, Perek Lametet in Yechezkel. And now we gonna switch to something to add very essential information. Let me just point out the following. When we started this analysis of this information in Yechezkel, we point out in the beginning that Hashem says to Yechezkel, Ben Adam, sim panecha el Gog, Eretz HaMagog, ve'inave alav. Meaning, the entire Nevuah addressed a person by the name Gog. So the entire Nevuah is addressing him. Israel, or the nation of Israel, mentioned by the way, because they are the target. But there is another place in the Tanakh, another place in the Nevi'im, in the Nevuah, in the prophecy, that Hashem speaks about those events, and we'll prove that it's about those events, to the nation of Israel. Not to the attacker, but to the nation of Israel. And the place is in different Navi, not Yechezkel, but Zechariah. And Navi Zechariah is very interesting Navi, Zechariah. Zechariah was one of the builders of the second Beis HaMikdash. The second temple was built by Anshe Knesset HaGdola. Chagai, Zechariah and Malachi, which mentioned in Trei Asar, the 12 small prophecies. Chagai, Zechariah and Malachi were the last Nevi'im that we have. Malachi, by the way, the Gemara in Maseches Megillah says it's Ezra. Ezra Sofer, the builder of the Beit Sheni, he called in the Tanakh, by the Ksuvim he called Ezra. By the Nevi'im he called Malachi. So Chagai, Zechariah and Malachi were part of the Anshe Knesset HaGdola that came out after the 70 years of the exile in Bavel, between the destruction of the first Beit HaMikdash to the build, and they built the second Beit HaMikdash. So they were one of the Nevi'im Acharonim. Zechariah, the book of Zechariah include 14 chapters. And they divided, very interestingly, half and half. The first 7 chapters are prophecies or messages that Hashem sent through Zechariah to the people at his generation. From chapter 8 to chapter 14, he speaks about events that are going to happen at the end of days. The last 3 prophets, meaning Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, from chapter 12, 13, 14, speaks about Milchamet Gog Magog. But Zechariah is not mentioning the name of Gog Magog because, not like Yechezkel, which was sent to give or address the Nevuah to Gog, Zechariah was sent to send the Nevuah to the Jewish nation. Let's go to chapter 12. See the first few psukim. The first 2 psukim of chapter 12 in Zechariah. Masad Dvar Hashem al Yisrael. He's speaking to the Jewish nation. Noteh shamayim v'yosed aretz v'yotzer ruach ha'adam bekirbo. Okay. Next pasuk. הנה אנוכי שם את ירושלים סף רעל לכל העמים סביב. Again, it's a prophecy that speaks about events that are going to take place at the end of days. And he says that Yerushalayim, at the end of days, will be Saf Ra'al. Saf is like a mag, Sefel. You know what Sefel in Hebrew? Sefel is, how do you say mag? I mean, mag. A jar, not a jar. Probably I'm not pronouncing it right. A mug.
Yeah, a mug.
Sefel. You know what Sefel is? A mug. What? You know what mag is? Sefel. So, Saf is actually 2 letters from the word Sefel in Hebrew, which is a mag. Okay? So he says over here, he just draw it in an interesting way, that Yerushalayim at the end of the day will be like anyone who will touch Yerushalayim and got involved in Yerushalayim from the nation of the world will be like someone who commits suicide by drinking poison. Ra'al is a poison. Saf Ra'al. And he speaks over here about Yerushalayim at the end of days, and he said Yerushalayim gonna be at the end of days in the center of the news. Everyone will be, all the nation, Kol Ha'amim, and it's mentioned a few times, Kol Ha'amim will be involved in Yerushalayim, and when they're going to do it, they have to know that the prophet says that they're going to drink poison that's going to kill them. The next verse, V'aya bayom hahu, Pasuk Gimel, the 3rd pasuk, V'aya bayom hahu asim et Yerushalayim even ma'amasa lekol ha'amim. And here you take another parable, like a stone. Yerushalayim will be a stone, a heavy stone, with a very sharp edge, that anyone that will carry it, gonna be cut by it. And he mentioned again, lechol ha'amim, all the nation of the world. Kol omseha sarot yisaretu. Anyone that will touch Yerushalayim gonna be cut off by it. ונאספו עליה כל גויי הארץ. And he speaks about that there will be an attack for all the nations of the world on Yerushalayim at the end of days. Okay. This is the one obvious similar description to what Yechezkel speaks. He didn't mention over here Gog Magog because he speaks to the Jewish nation and he said, be ready, the Jewish nation, when you will be at the end of days in Yerushalayim, all the nation of the world going to come to attack you. And they're going to pay the price. They will drink poison and they will be cut by this sharp edge of the stone called Yerushalayim. Now, he continued to describe what's going to happen. And he says few things in chapter 12, mention another few things in chapter 13, but the obvious description is in chapter Yudalit, the chapter 14, which is the last chapter in Zechariah. Okay, another one thing that we should know, in chapter 12, you know, when you hear that, especially, I could share with you my feelings. I was born in Yerushalayim, and I raised and grew up in Yerushalayim. So when you think, wow, we finally here, finished the exile in Yerushalayim, and then you hear this stuff, wow, all the nations of the world are going to attack us. What are we going to do? So I looked for comfort. So in the next few verses, there is one. Look what Hashem says in the same chapter, chapter 12, Pasuk Chet, in the 8th verse, Bayom Ahu Yagen Hashem Be'ad Yoshev Yerushalayim. So this is a promise that we will be protected. Hashem will protect us from this attack. So the safest place in the world to be at the time of this event will be in Yerushalayim. Because there is a promise that Hashem will protect us.
There will
How?
be soldiers on every single square foot.
Right. All over the country.
All over the country.
And they will attack Yerushalayim. And Yerushalayim will be the safest place. How Hashem will be protecting us when there will be an earthquake, that everything will fall down, right? So we'll see. והיה ביום ההוא, still in chapter 12, והיה ביום ההוא אבקש להשמיד את כל הגויים הבאים על ירושלים. So this is more details about what do you mean a poison? All of them will be destroyed completely. להשמיד, השמדה, to exterminate all the people who will come on Yerushalayim. I'm skipping to chapter 13. One verse, very interesting one, very not clear one, but look what he says. והבאתי את השלישית באש, וצרפתים כצרוף את הכסף, ובחנתים כבחון את הזהב. The translation is not good, because the translation taking the side over here, and in Hebrew the original is not clear. It seems that what it says over here, והבאתי את השלישית באש. שלישית is 1/3. So he said over here that 1/3, not clear from what, from the Jewish nation, from the population of the world, will be there, when the other 2/3 will not be there anymore, and it's not clear what he's talking about the entire world or in the Jewish nation. והבאתי את השלישית באש. And this 1/3 will become in fire, but look how. וצרפתים כצרוף את הכסף ובחנתים כבחון את הזהב. I will refine them, this 1/3, like someone would take a gold and want to purify it and clean it from all the things that not connected to it. Okay?
These are the Jewish people we're talking about?
Exactly. I mentioned before that we do not know. If we're talking about 1/3 of the Jewish nation or 1/3 of the population of the world. We do not know. ובחנתים כבחון את הזהב. I will check them or refine them like someone checking the gold. Now he says the following. הוא יקרא בשמי ואני אענה אותו. They will cry out in my name because actually what he described over here is very tough times with a lot of challenges that those people who will be there at the time will go through. And they will get to the point that they will understand that they could not help themselves. Therefore, they have no choice but to cry out to Hashem. And Hashem says, Hu yikra b'shmi v'ani e'ene oto. I will answer them. Amarti ami hu v'hu yomar Hashem Elohai. I will say, Hashem says, this is my nation. And they will say, Hashem is our God. What that probably means is the following. The end of days will be a very challenging time. Very, very challenging time. Many people, because the length of the exile, will have doubts. Who said it's true? Who said that was Ma'amad Har Sinai? Who said it's relevant? All of these questions that we very well aware of today. When will be this time that they will have no choice and they will be just with their back to the wall, with nothing could help? They will cry out to Hashem. And Hashem said, I will answer them, even though they should be connected to Hashem even without those challenges. But Hashem says, you know what? If they will cry out in my name, I will answer them. Anyways. Okay. Now, we're going to chapter 14. And in chapter 14, as I said, there are more description, more details about what do you mean that they will, the Gentiles or the international army that will come to attack Yerushalayim going to drink poison. I'm going to destroy them. Here are the details. And from here you could see that it's very, very clear that he's speaking about the same event that Yechezkel speaks about in Perek Lamed-Chet, Perek Lamed-Het, without mentioning the name Gog Magog. Both of them talking about many nations, Amim Rabim, all the nations of the world, right? But that's not enough. Let's see. Hine yom ba Hashem v'chulak shlalech bekirbech. This is chapter 14. He's speaking to Yerushalayim, and he talked to Yerushalayim as a female, and he said, Hine yom ba Hashem, will be one day, v'chulak shlalech bekirbech. This remind us very much what Gog wants to come. Remember why Gog wants to come to Israel? Lishlol shalal velavos baz, if you remember. Lishlol shalal, meaning to take booty, to take shalal. Right? So Zechariah mentioned the same thing. V'chulak shlalech bekirbech, meaning they will come to Yerushalayim, they will capture the city, and they will divide the booty over there. וחולק שללך בקרבך, inside ירושלים. ואספתי את כל הגויים אל ירושלים למלחמה, ונלכדה העיר. Yerushalayim will be captured. Even though Hashem said, I'll protect the Yoshvei Yerushalayim, those people who live in Yerushalayim, the Jewish nation that in Yerushalayim. But it says that before they will be defeated, they will capture the city. And not just they will capture the city, they will divide the booties that, because of that, they came to the war. Wow, that's not good. So, let's skip to the good part. פסוק ג' ויצא השם ונלחם בגויים ההם כי יום ילחמו ביום קרב. The meaning of this, that Hashem himself will fight them. Meaning that the people in Yerushalayim will not have the strength or the power to push away the attack. So Hashem will get involved himself. What do you mean that he gonna fight them? And here's the description. And the description is exactly the description of Yechezkel. How? Remember Yechezkel speak about three parts? Earthquake, and a war between them, and then a plague, a devil. Look what Yechezkel says, what Zechariah says. ויצא השם ונלחם בגויים ההם כי יום ילחמו ביום קרב, and here he speaks about the earthquake. ועמדו רגליו ביום ההוא על הר הזיתים אשר על פני ירושלים מקדם. ונבקע הר הזיתים מחציו מזרחה וימה גיא גדולה מאוד, ומש חצי ההר צפונה וחציו נגבה, ונסתם גיא הרי כי יגיע גיא הרים אל עצל. ונסתם כאשר נסתם מפני הרעש בימי עוזיה מלך יהודה. I'll translate it. First of all, it speaks about Ra'ash. Ra'ash is not just noise. Ra'ash anywhere in the Tanakh, Ra'ash is earthquake. Ra'ash. Like Yechezkel says, יהיה רעש גדול על אדמת ישראל. So here it speaks about Ra'ash, about earthquake. But what he described over here, very interesting. He said that the center of the earthquake will be Har HaZatim, the olive mountain. Shama, there will be the center. כביכול, like the feet of Hashem, ועמדו רגליו ביום ההוא על הר הזיתים, on the olive mountains that just parallel to Har HaBayit. And what's going to happen? Har HaZatim going to be split. Not just from this side to this side, but also from all directions. East, west, north, south. ונבקע הר הזיתים מחציו מזרחה וימה. מזרחה וימה is east and west. גיא גדולה מאוד. There will be a big valley. The mountain will be split and there will be a big valley in between. ומש חצי ההר צפונה, and it's go also to the north, וחציו נגבה. ונסתם גיא הרי כי יגיע גיא הרים אל עצל. It's a name of a place, meaning it will be a whole change of the land over there. Right? ונסתם כאשר נסתם מפני הרעש בימי עוזיה מלך יהודה, and there will be such a panic that everyone will be running away like the big earthquake, the Zechariah says, that happened at the time of Uzziah Melech Yehuda, which was about 200 or 100 and something years before him, but it was well known at the time. So it will be such a panic. So he speaks about earthquake, like Yechezkel speaks about earthquake. Then, if you continue, you will see in verse 13, והיה ביום ההוא, תהיה מהומת השם רבה בהם, ויחזיקו איש יד רעהו, ועלתה ידו על יד רעהו. And here he speaks about the nation, this international army that came together for one operation, but because of this earthquake, they will be so confused and they will start to attack each other. Exactly again like Yechezkel described. The plague, devil, that Yechezkel said, how he described it, Zechariah. וזאת תהיה המגפה אשר יגוף השם את כל העמים אשר צבאו על ירושלים. It will be a plague. And here's the description. המק בשרו והוא עומד על רגליו ועיניו תימקנה בחוריהן ולשונו תימק בפיהם. Really scary. But those are really the symptoms, right? That the flesh of the people will be just melted, and their eyes will be melted, and the tongues.
The Jewish people at the time again, or are we talking about the?
No. Here we're talking about the attackers.
The attackers, okay.
Yeah, the attackers. That Hashem will just defeat them in these 3 steps, exactly like Yechezkel described: earthquake, fight in between them, and this plague, and that will be the end of it. Now, the big question still remains is, what's going to happen to the Jewish nation? I mean, it will be such an earthquake. And people ask me, I gave this lecture a few times in Israel. And even here, people ask me, wait, it's mentioned over here that the safest place will be Yerushalayim. What about Bet Shemesh? What about Kiryat Sefer? What about Haifa, Netanya, Eilat, Tveria? Bnei Brak. So what's going to be? Where's the best place to be? So, I don't know, but I could say the following. Because if you understand the idea of the war is to reveal that Hashem, He is the master of the universe. And when Hashem says, Bayom ha'u, Yagen Hashem ba'ad Yosef Yerushalayim, it's very probable that it's not just literally about Yerushalayim. Hashem will protect the Jewish nation, because the idea is to show the difference that Hashem, like in Mitzrayim, v'yifla Hashem ben miknei Mitzrayim le'miknei Israel, meaning that the Jews will not be harmed by this war. I'm not taking any risks, and I'm going to live in Yerushalayim. But probably it's include all the Jews wherever they are in the land of Israel. Now, the question is how Hashem could save us if it will be such an earthquake. The answer is Hashem could do everything. And actually that will be the proof. That will be the proof that it will be an earthquake, but the earthquake will take down only the one who deserved it. And there is a precedent to this. Could you remember where?
Yeah, the Makos.
No different event in the Torah about earthquake. Korach. Remember the story of Korach? Right. In Korach, only Korach Vadato swallowed by the earth, but the other will survive. Hashem could do everything, and this is exactly the proof that when Hashem will protect the one who wants to be that Hashem wants to deserve, those who deserve to be protected, that will be the proof that Hashem will Elohim. I think I mentioned last time that one of the times that I gave this class was a nurse in the audience, right? And she said, the most terrifying thing for me is the plague. If it would be a virus, how it could differentiate between Jews and non-Jews? I told her, you forgot the 10 plagues in Egypt. Right. The devil was killing the animal of the Egyptian only. And this is exactly the proof. Because if not, what is the proof? This is the proof. So in general, we should know that the Jews will be protected. But, and here's the but, there is a small but. Let's go back to the first pasuk of chapter 14. I read part of the pasuk, but I skipped the last few words. They are scary. But I'll read them now and then explain them. I'm going back to chapter 14, the first few psukim. הנה יום בא להשם וחולק שללך בקרבך. ואספתי את כל הגויים אל ירושלים למלחמה ונלכדה העיר. And here's the continuation. ונשסו הבתים והנשים תשכבנה ויצא חצי העיר בגולה ויתר העם לא יכרת מן העיר. And then ויצא השם ונלחם בגויים ההם כי יום ילחמו ביום קרב. But before Hashem will interfere, it will be a terrible disaster in Yerushalayim. The city will be captured. The enemies will take over the houses and they violate the women over there. And then it describes something amazing, that they will take to exile half of the population of Yerushalayim. But the rest half will stay there. And then Hashem will interfere. Meaning, before they will be defeated, they will cause damage. A damage of war.
But on the Jews, or just once? Is this the part where the Jews have nothing to do with them? They're just fighting.
You know what? When I read it many years ago as a Yerushalmer, I live in Yerushalayim, I always hoped that Chatzi Ha'ir Bagola is Jerusalem with the Arabs. And the rest are the Jews. I don't know. But what is the meaning of this? The Jews will be harmed, yes or no?
Right.
It's not clear, right?
No, it looks pretty clear by the pasuk what's going to happen.
I'll tell you what's the solution.
And
of
what's
this.
going to happen to the rest of the people that were exiled? Okay, let's say the Jews in Yerushalayim, they're saved, but like the ones that are shipped off to Russia or Iran or China, it doesn't look so safe. I'm sorry.
Exactly. So the solution of the let me just make the question.
I know Hashem decides everything, but at the same time,
let's
going to be these Rishayim choosing who's the one who's going and who's the one who's staying.
It's much better than you think. Let me see. Let me just explain this. If you read the Nevuah, the prophecy, in Yechezkel, there is no mention of all of this. In Yechezkel, it seems like the following. Gog and the rest and all the people, all the nations of the world will come to attack Israel. And when they will come, Hashem is going to punish them by earthquake, a war between them, and a plague. Right? That's what the description in Yechezkel. Only when you add Zechariah, which talk about the things from the Jews' point of view, from the people who got attacked, then you see that there will be some damage. So if the damage is must be, Yechezkel also should mention it. So it seems like it's two descriptions, one good for the Jews, Yechezkel, and one not that good to the Jews, the way Zechariah described it. So it seems like a contradiction between those two Nevi'im. Because we know that both Nevi'im, all the Nevi'im, speaks in the name of Hashem. Should not be a contradiction. So if you find that Hashem speaks by Yechezkel like that, and by Zechariah like that, because the source is the same source, it could not be contradiction. So there is a rule in the Torah. This rule is a very famous rule, that it's part of the 13 midot שהתורה נדרשת בהן. The last rule of the 13 rules how to learn the Torah is the following. וכן שני כתובים המכחישים זה את זה, עד שיבוא הכתוב השלישי ויכריע ביניהם. If you find two verses, two psukim in the Torah, in the Tanakh, that seems like contradict each other, look for a third pasuk. And the third pasuk will explain to you why it's not a contradiction. This is the rule. Now, after we learned about this event, Melchemet Gog Magog, in Yechezkel and in Zechariah, and it seems contradict relating to what exactly going to happen to the Jews, we have to find a third pasuk that maybe will make an order, and there is one.
Love it. We're getting there.
And the third pasuk is in different Navi. We mentioned Yechezkel, we mentioned Zechariah. Now we're going to the last Navi that Hashem sent to us before the Nevuah was stopped by the Churban of Bayit Rishon. And this is the Navi Malachi. Malachi is the last Navi. In the Nevi'im, the last Navi is Malachi. In Malachi, we have only 3 chapters in the entire book of Malachi. And as I mentioned before, Malachi hu Ezra. Malachi is not speaking about Melchemet Gog Magog at all. He just mentioned it in a very subtle hint. What he speaks about, because he is the last Navi, he speaks, his words are very dramatic. Before this channel called Nevuah gonna be stopped until the end of days, what is the last message that Hashem sent through the Nevi'im to the Jewish nation? So he speaks about the end of days in general, and those are the words of Malachi. I'll start from the last pasuk in the 2nd chapter. There are 3 chapters, right? The last pasuk in the 2nd chapter, which is the Hakdama, the thing before the 3rd chapter. So the 3rd chapter is the main thing, but it's worth to see the last pasuk in the 2nd chapter of Malachi. It speaks about something amazing. It speaks about the questions that people will ask, Jews will ask at the end of days. All kinds of Jews. Those who are far away from Torah and Yiddishkeit and those who are in. What is the most bothering question that Jews ask today? You have any idea?
What do you mean by?
I heard many questions from many kinds of Jews. Some of them wants to know, some of them wants to just annoy. But what is the real justified question that each one of us, this way or another, ask?
Is it justified, really?
Yeah. It's a good question. It's a question that we should ask.
Does it have to do with Mashiach?
Also, but not just. The question is the question of tzaddik v'ralo, rasha v'tov lo.
Why bad things happen to good people? I mean,
Why
bad things happen
bad things happen
to
to good people, and why wickeds could be successful, right? It's a good question. It's a very good question, and it's a question that we should ask in order to really understand the way of God, how Hashem supervises the world. These questions mentioned by many Nevi'im, including Moshe Rabbeinu, and he wrote a whole book about it, called Sefer Iyov. The book of Iyov is the summary of what Moshe Rabbeinu, the Navi, says about this question of Tzadik V'Ra Lo Rasha V'Tov. Now, I'm going to Malachi, and I'm going to show you that this is the question that the Navi says will be asked at the end of days. Why? Because it will be a long time of exile. The Jews will be suffering during the history, and the question is, where is Hashem? Why he let the Jews to suffer so much, right? Here's the question. Here's Malachi. Pasuk Yud Zayin, the last pasuk of chapter, the second chapter. Hoga'atem Hashem b'divlechem. You're worrying Hashem, you making him tired by this question. What is the question? And cynically, he described it this way. Va'amartem b'meh hoga'atanu. B'meh hoga'anu. Why are you saying that we are bothering Hashem and make him just tired of this question? What is the question? באומרכם כל עושה טוב, כל עושה רע, טוב בעיני השם, ובהם הוא חפץ, או איה אלוהי המשפט. You think cynically, probably God love wickeds. Because if not, why are they so successful and say, או איה אלוהי המשפט? Why there is no justice? Why good people suffering? Why wickeds are so successful? So he mentioned that this will be the question, and people will repeat it again and again and again, until he says, Hashem is tired to hear this question. But this is the question. Now what he says to say about this? Okay, this is the question. What's the answer for this question? So he relates to this in the next few psukim, in the next few verses, in the third chapter. And he says, don't count on it. Don't count on it. Because people will say, you know what? It's not worth to be good. Let's just do whatever I want. And because we get people who seems to do against the will of Hashem are successful. So the Navi has suggestion. Don't count on it. Look at this. הנני שולח מלאכי ופינה דרך לפניי. I will send my messenger, and he will clear the path before me. ופתאום יבוא אליך לו, האדון אשר אתם מבקשים, ומלאך הברית אשר אתם חפצים, הנה בא, אמר השם צבאות. And it speaks here about two people, two figures. The king, which is the Mashiach, and Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi is Malach HaBrit. He said, don't count on it. Don't think it's worth to be wicked, to do what's not right. Because suddenly, it will be not expected when Hashem will send Mashiach and will send Eliyahu Navi, and then those who weren't behaving right gonna pay the price. Meaning, until then, there is a hastara, a concealment. In order to allow free will, therefore, the hashgacha is not clear that everyone that do wrong gonna pay the price for it. Because if every, let's say, stealer, everyone who steals, let's say, one finger of it, every time you steal, one finger will fall down. Everyone who said Lashon Hara, for 2 days you could not talk. There will be no hashgacha, no bchira anymore. Because people will prevent to do it, not because it's right, but because it doesn't work. Okay? In order to have bchira, Hashem hiding his justice that he's doing in the world. And this is the hastara, this is the concealment. So here he speaks about the time when the end of days will come, will be no more bechira. No more bechira meaning will be no such a thing, tzaddik v'ralo. Every tzaddik will reward for it, obviously, and every wicked will pay the price immediately. So he said, the more we will get to the end of days, the confusion will be bigger. But he offers us, listen, don't count on it, because suddenly it's going to change. Okay. ומי מכלכל את יום בואו, ומי העומד בהיראותו, who could predict when he exactly will come, כי הוא כאש מצרף וכבורית מחפשים, when he will come, he will clear everything and make things in order. Now, he continues and says, unbelievable thing. In order to understand the power of this, you have to know the history. Know the history of the last, let's say, 300 years. So everyone heard about the Enlightenment? Yeah. So what happened? What's the major thing that happened by the Enlightenment? Until the time of the Enlightenment, which is not Enlightenment, it was darkness, spiritual darkness, philosophical darkness. Jews were stubborn all the way. But Jews knew about Ma'amad Sinai, and they knew that we got the Torah. And they knew that you could not identify yourself as Jewish denying the Torah. 300 approximately years ago, after the French Revolution, after the Renaissance, was the Jewish, what they called enlightenment. And actually what they tried to do. They said, we are Jews, but we are not obligated to the Torah anymore. They called themselves, we are Germans who belongs to Dat Moshe, but we are Germans. They tried to switch, to change the identity of the Jew. They create a Jew that he is Jewish, but he is not obligated to the Torah. That was a new thing, never happened before. And why did they do this? They did this because the Renaissance, because there are new winds in the world, philosophically, the French Revolution, and they said, let's think, it was worth to be Jewish, meaning to behave like Jew, to follow the Torah, to follow the mitzvahs. If we'll summarize the history, we just suffer from this. We were different from the Goyim, from the Gentiles. Therefore, they hated us. They put us in ghettos. They didn't. Now it's new era, new time. Let's be like everyone. Right? That was their idea. That's why, and by the way, they caused such a damage to the Jewish nation, more than all the anti-Semites ever. Why? Because assimilation, because we are like everyone else. So Hashem relate to them now here in this nevuah, and look what he says. חזקו עלי דבריכם אמר השם, ואמרתם מה נדברנו עליך. Hashem complaining, you went too far. You did something so not proper. And you said, why? What we already did? אמרתם. And here the description of exactly what they said in the Enlightenment. אמרתם, שם אבות אלוקים, ומה בצע כי שמרנו משמרתו, וכי הלכנו כדורנית מפני השם צבקות. You will summarize the history and say, who needs to serve God anymore? We just suffer from this. We went to darkest places, darkest corner in the world for this. הלכנו כדורנית מפני השם צבקות. It doesn't work to be serving God. He exactly explained this, right? ועתה, אנחנו מאשרים צדדים. And how do they support logically their revolution that they want to do? Because of this question. ועתה אנחנו מאשרים זדים. We see that the zedim, which is the reshaim, the wicked, are happy. They are מאושרים, מאשרים זדים. גם נבנו עשר אישה. They were against Hashem and they were built from it. נבנו עשר אישה. גם בחנו אלוקים וימלטו. They tested God and they didn't get punished. So it's not relevant anymore. Look at the facts. Look at the history. You see. And they will decide based on this to leave the Torah, to stay Jews who do not necessarily believe the Torah or perform the Torah. And that will be a rebel against God. So he described it over here. And he said that it's going to happen at the end of days. The longest the exile will be, the far you will be from Ma'amad Sinai, that will make this idea stronger, and many Jews will follow this idea. Now, he didn't just describe this, he described that at the time when this will happen, and many Jews will decide that Torah is not relevant anymore, will be a small group of Jews who will stick and believe in Hashem and go in the ways of God. Look at the next verses. As, meaning then, at the time of this revolution, nidberu yirei Hashem yisharehu, vayakshev Hashem vayishma. Will be people who will be faithful and loyal to Hashem. And it will be hard for them, because the reality is against them. And many Jews are going to this new idea. So to stick in the old, to be loyal to Hashem, it will be very hard. And Hashem said, this is one of the challenges of the end of days. And I'm doing it on purpose. And those people who will be loyal to me, look at the end, at the continuation. Vayakshev Hashem vayishma. Hashem will listen to them when they will talk about, we are not going with a string. We stick to Hashem. Hashem will listen to this, and he will listen. וייכתב ספר זיכרון לפניו ליראי השם ולחושבי שמו. And he mentioned over here a book, that Hashem will write a book, and in this book he will put the names of those who will be loyal to him. Why this book should be written? Here's the explanation. והיו לי אמר השם צבאות ליום אשר אני עושה סגולה, וחמלתי עליהם כאשר יחמול איש על בנו העובד אותו. This book will be kept to one day. Will be one day that this day will be a day of judgment. And this day, when the attribute of judgment will demand to pay off everyone, I, says Hashem, will open this book, and the names of the people that are in this book will be saved. What is the meaning of this? Because this book mentioned in a few places in the Tanakh. How much time we have?
It's an hour now.
Yeah.
After by 12:30.
Few minutes. Question is if to squeeze it all now, or to divide to do another part of it. What do you think? What? It will take me more than a few minutes.
So we will.
So then let's do it, but once we do it, and we really want people to
I think for sure after Purim, but I think that as we get closer to Pesach,
Yeah.
realistically, it's going to be more difficult. Like,
Yeah.
even today, I
Right,
said for sure,
right
for
after
It's
sure.
very hard for me now because I'm working now. So the days that I'm not working with before Pesach, I really have to get in
I understand.
the errands.
So let's try to squeeze it. I mean, okay.
What?
There is a book.
I know we're always doing it.
1 second, we could do it though right after Purim though, everybody said.
Next week.
Next week.
We could do it after Purim, for sure. Well, I think we can get.
Okay.
And we could probably get like a little bit more people because Esther will be back.
So let's summarize this part, and then I'll
Okay.
tell you what
Okay.
to expect.
Okay.
Hashem speaks about a book, and this book is very important. This book mentioned in different Nevi'im, and this book is the book that only the Jews. This is a challenge, this is a test. Who will be faithful to Hashem when it will not be popular? When Hashem is not shown, when there is a darkness, a lot of confusion. Those times will be the time of the test. And those people, those Jews who will stick to Hashem, who will be loyal to Hashem, will be written in this book, and when the time will come, and will be the events of the end of days, one of those events is the Gog Magog war, those Jews will be saved.
And the other Jews won't be?
We're going to see it. We're going to see it later on.
At the table, so I think that anyone who's sitting here is really believers.
No, because
Okay.
I'm saying like after
Right.
after the Holocaust, there are so many people that when you can't blame them, you're
Right.
told you cannot judge them.
Right.
They
For sure.
completely don't have any belief in God. But are they to be blamed? Never. If any of us would have gone through that. if we
I
don't-
could relate more to this in details, but we have
Okay.
really no time now. So
Okay.
I'll talk about this book in the next time, about the book and about the test, and how it's related to Gog Magog, and how it makes there seems to be contradiction between Zechariah and Yecheskel clear. Because there is, I'll say just now in few words, but it needs explanation. The event of Milchamet Gog Magog, the event of this war, gonna happen, either way. But we have to know that there is something called free will. Free will means that Hashem is not interfere or influence what each one of us as an individual choosing to do. Because if not, we will not be free willers. Because there is a free will, the question is not if the war of Gog and Magog will occur, yes or no. It will. The question is, and this is question mark, how we gonna pass it? What's gonna happen to us? And this is something that's not decided. It's something that you, each one of us, by our decisions and our will, our free will, we will decide what's going to happen to us. So if you will understand what's the idea of the attackers, if you remember what the idea of Gog, to come and convince everyone that there is no God. So the one who will buy this philosophy, this theory, will be destroyed because Hashem will appear clearly. And so among the Jews will be the same problem. There are Jews, there will be Jews that will decide to go for this philosophy and deny God. There is no such a thing. When this philosophy will knock out, everyone who will hold from it will knock out with it. Only the ones who will know that there is God and Gog is the liar and this philosophy is not true, they will be, it's not a reward, it's an outcome. It's an outcome. So we'll talk about this in more details, and this is the meaning of this book. We'll talk about this in more details with Hashem next time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, this is this part.